I just made my deposit to physical therapy school and wanted to share my application story, stats, and advice for future pre-PT students. I really liked watching videos similar to this one in the past, found it very useful, so I hope this helps someone out a little by providing a frame of reference and kind of an example. This video is not going to cover my motivations and my why since I've touched on those areas in a previous video already. I want to start by saying that the whole application process for PT school can be pretty daunting, but if you plan ahead and just take it one step at a time, it becomes pretty doable. It all starts with making a PT school list. I filtered by important factors like location and cost. For me, anything outside of the Midwest and the East Coast was off the list immediately. I know that sounds like really extreme, but there's just so many great schools that considering each program individually is just too much volume, in my opinion. Once this kind of preliminary list is done, I found it really useful to make a spreadsheet with information about each program, such as when the deadline is, if I had attended a virtual event for it, and if the program uses PTCAS, which is kind of the centralized application portal for PT school, kind of like the Common App is for undergrad. This is what my spreadsheet looked like when I was applying. I was able to rank my preference for each program by giving important category points, weighing them accordingly, and averaging them. I used research, location, community, vibe, facilities, and cost as my variables. The schools with the highest point totals were the ones I preferred most overall, and doing it this way ensured that I didn't have any blind spots in my reasoning. It was kind of weird to do it this way and really super extra and definitely unnecessary, but I'm just obsessive about covering all my bases, and this is how I went about it. Once I had narrowed down 5 to 10 schools that I was interested in, I began looking at each of the requirements that I did not already meet. In my case, all of them required Anatomy and Physiology 1 and 2 and observation hours. Most of them required the GRE and 2 courses in psychology, and a few of them required medical terminology. Because I'm a biochem major at a liberal arts school, I had my bases really well covered in terms of chemistry, biology, physics, and math, but I was in a bit of a predicament since my college does not offer anatomy and physiology or medical terminology. Because it was early spring at the time and I wanted to apply the following fall, I realized that I needed to structure my summer very wisely to pull off applying to PT school on the kind of timeline I intended. In the end, I figured out a plan to live with my parents while working as a PT aide. At the same time, I was taking all the courses I needed through community college and online while studying for the GRE and building my personal statement. This was rough, but we got it done. In retrospect, I don't wish that I went to a different college and studied something like exercise science or pre-PT for a smoother application process, just because I think my unique background will serve me well in the future, but I guess we'll find out. During my last year of college, I'm taking 2 psychology courses since I fortunately could have 2 prereqs planned but not completed at the time of application. In mid-September of 2024, I ended up applying to 5 programs. They were the University of Minnesota, University of Maryland, Baltimore, George Washington University, University of Iowa, and Mayo Clinic. I got interview invitations from Mayo, Iowa, and George Washington in the following weeks after applying, and was waitlisted by University of Minnesota and Mayo Clinic shortly afterwards. Later in the fall, I was accepted into Maryland's program in Iowa and withdrew my application from George Washington. Now I'm going to go over the stats I applied to physical therapy school with. Overall, I got a 316 on the online 2-hour GRE, 159 verbal and 157 quantitative with a 4.5 on the writing. This was with a few weeks of studying, so I was pretty happy with it. It seemed to me that anything in the 300s was adequate for PT school, so I wasn't too stressed about it. The GRE vocab flashcards and reviewing my mistakes on free practice tests was really effective for me. My undergrad GPA was 3.54, which is on the lower side, but I think that having courses like physical chemistry and OChem 2 really helped make my lower GPA seem a little more justified in the eyes of admissions. I also got A's in all those courses I took over the summer, so that really helped bring my prereq GPA up within PT-CAS, which is kind of what they look at as well. For PT experience, I had about 120 hours working in an outpatient clinic and just a few hours spread across acute care and pediatrics. My spread across specialties was not amazing at all, but at least I think they could see my effort in kind of shadowing multiple settings, which I think is important. I had previous research experience in the chemistry department and college athletics that I also listed on my application. I really liked my personal statement and think it tied my application together well and just explained my situation. I really recommend really taking the personal statement seriously and working on it strategically. Don't save it as a last minute thing because I think it carries a lot of weight. The supplemental essays for each school are also really important, so be sure to give them time and due diligence. My biggest piece of advice to someone who wants to go to physical therapy school is to just do stuff during undergrad. Taking on new responsibilities and having new experiences, it doesn't just give you content for your essays and interviews. It actually teaches you about yourself and what you want out of the future. For example, throughout college, I was a team captain, student athlete mentor, ran pole vault social media, and organized mental health related events in athletics. These were all optional things, and I didn't think too much about them when I started it, but they all ended up playing a fairly important role in my applications to physical therapy school, but more importantly, in my personal development. Add some texture to your life and give in to the nooks and crannies that build your character and just differentiate you from other applicants. That's my advice. Um, yeah, so please leave a comment below or shoot an email to myomentia@gmail.com if you have any more questions. That's kind of the bases I wanted to cover, but I'm more than happy to share more about my experiences and offer help or guidance to anyone who's in the process right now. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in.